everybody. Welcome to Enlightenment of Change on webtalkradio.com. I'm your host, Connie Whitman. You know that I'm happy that you're here. So today I'm mixing it up a little bit. I don't have guests. They called out, so I am running solo, and I really do hope you enjoy today's episode based on a bunch of questions I've been getting lately, and I thought probably would help my listeners. So again, I do hope you find value in today's episode. Now, as you listen to the show, listen, man, I get it. Change, that word change really is difficult. And I know throws us into some deep spirals sometimes in the wrong direction, especially if that change is thrust upon us. So in the show notes, I have a gift for you, and it's my communication style assessment. I really think if you haven't taken it, I know I share it every episode, but if you haven't taken it, really take the time, pause and take it, because I find when we are navigating change, our communication skills really need to be on fire and honed to the extent that every time we speak, our message is clear. So in the show notes is the link. You will get 2 reports. One, spotlight your natural communication superpowers. Important to know, because this is how your message is typically landing without any effort from you. Flip side, lowest score. That's where you really probably have a blind spot when you're speaking with people who just communicate 180 degrees unlike you. So understanding that blind spot really could help you navigate or create change with a lot more ease and grace. So that link is in the show notes. Now, my quote today, I really thought about this based, again, on these conversations I've had with multiple people over the past probably 6 months, where I keep getting asked the same question. And that's what prompted me to do this solo show, which I'm not super comfortable with. But again, I hope that my insight and my perspective on this topic is value added to you. So the motivational quote I chose is by Betsy Jacobson. And Betsy says, "Balance is not better time management, but better boundary management. Balance means making choices and then enjoying those choices." So again, lately, people have been asking me, especially folks in their 30s, how was I able to start a business, raise kids? By the way, 2 boys who played hockey, travel hockey, since they were like age 5 and 6. So crazy is crazy in my household, and maintain a marriage that my husband and I just had our 32nd anniversary, and 25 years in business this year in 2024. And the short answer is that I really think I just kept putting one foot in front of the other. Truly, I don't think I had a master plan when I was in my 30s. Knowing how to create my wonderful business and life, I'm not going to say it was by accident, but I think it's just through learning every day. So one of the things I've learned is to set those clear boundaries with every choice that I've made. And that really has happened and evolved over time. So don't expect the first time you make a choice that you're going to set these clear boundaries. Sometimes it just takes some trial and error until you realize and develop your skill, your zone of genius, your craft, whatever it is, that those boundaries do become clearer over time. So that's maybe my first tip. And that's really why I chose that quote today, because for me, it really does boil down to those boundaries and the choices we have. And we're the only ones, by the way, who could control our future. So setting those clear boundaries that you're able to live with, I think, is really crucial and critical to creating that ease that we're looking to achieve in life. The next step, and this maybe is tough, I think, for many of us, you have to remain fluid and change directions often while always setting boundaries that you can handle. Thus, the show, Enlightenment of Change, which I've been doing, I think, 13 years now. And this is my baby. I love this show because change is part of life. And I think that between my guests and I, through the weeks, and as you guys listen to the episodes, that change is there and it's happening whether we want it to or not. So how can we help ourselves navigate a little bit easier? So if the past month, 2 months, year, whatever it might be for you, but if you've been hearing yourself saying things like, I had no choice. I need the job because I need the paycheck, but it's soul sucking, right? That's an opportunity for you to reflect. So I challenge you to pause and reflect on the situation, whatever it is, and determine what choice, maybe better wording is what control you actually have over the situation. Now, if you can't control it, here's my recommendation. Move on. Because if it's not something in your control, then we go into worry, and worry is a waste of energy and time. And then you can't think clearly of what can I control and maybe what steps should I put in place to help with that control. So otherwise, all of that energy and angst and then we don't sleep, and then we become fatigued, and it becomes this whole spiral of nonsense and crappiness that I don't think any of us really want in our life. Now, I said this to someone this week, actually, and they stopped and asked me to repeat it. So I thought, oh, this might be an important thing to share during this episode. So it's definitely worth sharing. But the person asked me to repeat. And in our conversation, I said, we have to give ourselves grace every day because we're really doing the best we can. And whatever that means to you. And this person said, can you say that again? I don't think we give ourselves enough grace and love and self-care and all the things you hear about. How do we do that? Choices and boundaries. And I really think that's the message of today's show. So I'll share some other insights that I see with my clients that are my bankers, my colleagues, other business owners. Is sending the time or spending time beating ourselves up, saying things like this we're really, really good at, right? That negative record player. Oh, I didn't accomplish XYZ. I'm not ever going to be able to, the peeps that are in my orbit that are in their 30s, I'm never going to be able to afford to buy a home, raise a family. I'm not earning enough. I have no time to breathe. And the list goes on and on where we really feel like we can't breathe. Well, here's just another little recommendation. Give yourself a break, man. You're doing the best you can. You're showing up the best you can. Freaking take a breath, sit down, and really analyze whatever's going on in your life. What do you have control over and what don't you have control over? So take the angst out, take the anxiousness out, sit quietly, and really do that exercise. We put so much pressure on ourselves to be successful, and you fill in the blank, whatever that means for you. And then I think one of the other big glitches that humans that we make is we start comparing ourselves to our peers and others who maybe might not be, but appear to be ahead of us on our career, on their business growth. But you're not seeing behind the scenes of what they've sacrificed or the decisions and choices that they had to make, sometimes really tough ones, to be where they are now. So stop doing that comparaphobia. It's just dangerous because you can't compare yourself to others. It's not fair. So instead, here's my recommendation. Compete with yourself. Stop looking at external forces that we have no control over and then compare ourselves to something it's just unrealistic. So constantly push yourself to compete with yourself. How do we do that? Grow, learn your craft, get better at, take a class, take an online class, read a new book, challenge yourself with something that you have no interest in, but challenge yourself to read or see the perspective of that person. And then what happens is we take what I call the blinders off of our perspective is here. And every time we hear another opinion or idea or a choice or a situation or read or learn or whatever it is that you're allowing yourself to do, your blinders, your perspective grows, and it grows exponentially the more you do this. So really become a lifelong learner. And again, do not put pressure on yourselves. I spend the first 20 minutes of my day every morning when I wake up, I read an article, 20 minutes, that's it. And when the 20 minutes is up, I'm on to getting ready because I have, busy days. So for me, that 20 minutes in the morning, it keeps me relevant. It keeps me abreast of what's going on out there by reading relevant articles and things that are happening. Do it in the morning, maybe at night before you go to bed, read 20 minutes. Don't try to cram yet another thing in with my recommendations. That's never the answer. So the other thing I wanted to share, and again, I had this conversation with a person this week, and we were talking about overnight successes. And again, in my 4 decades, doing this at 25 years in business, guess what? I don't believe there's anything or there's no such thing as an overnight success. I think it's just an unattainable thing to even try for. Here's the other thing. When you look back or you ask that person who appears to be an overnight success, it's usually a decade or more where they've been honing their craft, maybe doing it as a side hustle, networking, building their community so that they can build the business or change careers or whatever it might be. And I share how I approached opening my business. Often people ask me, especially people in their 30s that are starting side hustles, they'll ask me, when you opened your business, my kids were 1 and 4 at the time. And here's the real answer too. It really does take a village. So the other thing we forget to do as humans, and I can't even say that women or men are worse at this. I can speak from my perspective, obviously, which is the female voice here, right? I'm the one who had the kids, right? We're usually the nurturers, not always the case, but typically the female is the nurturer. Well, when I started my business, thank goodness, my parents live locally. We chose, see here, choice, making decisions about the future. So when my husband and I got married, we saved our money, we banked one paycheck, lived off the other, and we were able to afford. And I grew up in Homedale, and we lived in Homedale, good school system, all the things that were part of our decision-making process. But here was the biggest piece of it. My mom and dad live locally. So I knew my kids would still be in bed. I could go to my client in North Jersey or South Jersey or Pennsylvania or wherever I was traveling to back then, because we didn't have the internet in the 80s. So actually in the 90s. So my mom and dad were a huge support function for me. So I never had to cancel training, and I knew I could show up for my client. That was huge. But we made the choice to save and sacrifice in order to live in Homedale. So you get the idea that there's always choices in our decision making. Sometimes choices are made for us, but I really believe we have the potential to make the choices that we want. The other thing, I had a cousin who lived locally. So on the days where I was in my office, she came and babysat, took my son to school if she had to go to a parent-teacher conference or something. So I had my cousin who helped out. And then ultimately I had an aunt, my son's great aunt, who helped me babysit as my cousin got another job. So again, ebbs and flows. It took a village for me to be able to build the business, build a life, and support my kids with their hockey careers, as they traveled for, 12 or 13 years, whatever it ended up being. The other thing, I had many conversations with my husband as to things that I needed off my plate or vice versa. So I think that through the years, we created our own individual team. I don't want you to think like my family helped and we did nothing, right? So we did build our own little team, but I have to tell you, it was a lot of communication that happens. So the other thing that I see, colleagues in the area, they've moved or relocated where maybe you don't have family locally, and I get it. So here's my recommendation. If you don't have family, maybe your mom and dad are still working, try to find a community or people that can help support you. So friends, family, babysitters, from reputable places. But you need to make sure that you free up your time to be able to work, earn an income, whatever it is that you're looking to start a business, right? Whatever it is you're looking to achieve. The other thing that I really have read many articles about this too, is that, and I'll speak from the US perspective, I'm not sure of other countries, but we live in what's being called the hustle culture, meaning we feel this need to be in constant motion to be able to achieve XYZ, whatever that goal is. And the reality is we're killing ourselves, and we put ourselves on this treadmill that's going nowhere, people. And I know I was part of this culture for really way too long. And with age, the old saying, with age comes wisdom. I'm really starting to believe that. And I just want to share a story, just keep a track of time here really quickly. But I'd like to share a story. So I had gone to my older son, he was going into preschool. And there was a local school. It was a cooperative. So it kept the price down. But the expectation was moms, dads would mother help, father help, and or paint the gym and stuff like that. So it was a cooperative where we had to do some, a little bit of elbow grease in there. So I went to a meeting at night about what the expectation was of the parents, et cetera, mother helping and all of this, and how many times a month. And all I remember driving home was I was holding on to the steering wheel tighter and tighter and tighter with every mile I went. I literally created grooves in the palm of my hand because I was so stressed. And I remember, putting the garage door, pulling in and bursting into tears. And I thought, now, and here's the thing, for those that know me, I don't cry. I'm like, there's a problem. What's the solution? Let's pull up our big girl pants and move forward. So trust me when I tell you, I was shocked that now I'm sobbing uncontrollably. I literally had a little bit of a breakdown. And I remember I must have been in the garage for quite some time. My husband came out and said to me, what's going on? And now he sees me in this, bucket of tears or a pile of tears. And he said, this was the only question he asked me, what can I do? And what can I take off your plate? Now, here's the funniest thing. That whole drive home where I grooved, my nails into the palms of my hand, never dawned on me to ask for help. It was, you have to do, me, meaning me, you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to fit it in and juggle your schedule and work at night so that you can do this during the day. In other words, don't sleep, Connie, don't eat, just work and do what's expected of you. See how bad I was at setting those boundaries, not only for myself. And all I had to do was say to my husband, can you do the laundry and can you do the food shopping? They were the two things. And by the way, he still does them for me. He's a great partner. But they were the two things I asked, can you just take them off my plate? I feel like I'm drowning. Here's the other thing I've learned, and I hear again frequently from clients. And again, my bankers, they ask me often, how do you juggle it, especially if you have to physically go to a location to get work, to do your work, to do your job? We all think, and I think, guys, you go through this as well, but I think we wear the Superman or Superwoman shirt or tights, whatever, under our blouses and shirts. And the reality is we should not be doing that. We should not be thinking that. That's crazy thoughts, right? We really do need to find our community. And what I mean by that is both in our personal lives as well as in our professional lives. Guys, we just can't do it alone. Time keeps marching on, and I feel like everything is amped up. The speed of things that's happening, right? ChatGPT, the AI, we're in constant motion. We're constantly connected. It's exhausting. So here's my challenge to you. I really challenge you to build a community that will help you thrive, not survive, but thrive. And a community that really does build you up, provides resources and help without you even asking. That's even, I think when people get to know us really well, they know what we need sometimes before we know we need it, because they're looking from a different vantage point. We're kind of stuck in the weeds where they could see a little bit more of the forest from the trees. And this is where I know I was many years ago, and it was something like something along the lines of, I saw a sign and it was something like, and I hope I do it justice because it was just such a brilliant message or, motivational message on the sign in some store, but it went something like this. Think about yourself as being on a stage, right? You're the star of the show. You're on the stage, and then look down. Who are in the first few rows of the theater? Are they people who are screaming and shouting and cheering? Or the flip side, which is the ones that we want to kind of ask to leave the theater? Or are they people who are really telling you, you can't do that. You'll never be able to achieve that. What are you thinking? Are you out of your mind? They're not the people you want in the first row. And for me, I've moved them out of the theater in my life. So really think about that. And again, I'm going to challenge you both personally and professionally. You're on stage. Who are in the first few rows of your theater? And do you want them to be there, or do we need to ask them to leave? And I'm going to leave you with one more thing as I close out this episode. We really all have to learn, choose, maybe that's set the boundary of pause and give yourself grace every day. Everyone, we're all dealing with something. And here's the other thing I've learned. No one escapes tragedy, sorrow, deaths, any of the bad stuff in life. Guess what? We are all going to face it at one time or another. You can run, but you can't hide from stuff, right? So how do you choose? And notice that word again, choose, choice, boundaries. How do you choose to live your life, career, or business? And it's really by choosing what that and that baby step. Please don't even make it a giant step. What's that next little step that you can do? And again, not for your neighbor, friend at work. What is the right next step for you? So eliminate that comparaphobia. Compare yourself to that next step. Is it attainable? And here's the other thing too, guys. Let's say make it easy, man. Don't go through life making it easy, but don't go through life making every step an uphill battle or a challenge. That is not sustainable. And that's where we find ourselves in, like my sitting in the garage crying. That's that overwhelm, that burnout. And you don't realize you're spiraling into that until you're in the garage crying, thinking, I can't get up in the morning. I don't even know what to do. Ask for help, set those boundaries, think about the choices you're making, okay? And do the best you can. Because here's the other thing I've learned. You make a choice forward and you think, oh no, that was not the right choice. I should have been doing this. But once you're in motion, the fluidity of changing right or left or keep moving straight, it becomes so much easier because you're already in motion. So that's my rants. That's my show for today. I really hoped you enjoyed the solo version of just me. I've never done this before, and I do hope you found value. Kind of the schedule allowed it because I didn't have a guest, and I wanted to share some of the insights that for the past year, I've been hearing a lot of this, and a lot of people, you mentor and you help and new graduates and all those things. And these are the questions I've been hearing. So again, I hope this is my perspective, my opinion. Doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean it's wrong. This is what has worked for me. And if it could inspire you to create the changes and give you some ideas, resources of how to take that next step forward, even if it's just for you to pause and breathe and think about what do I want that next step to look like, then I think this episode was a success. Again, in my show notes, I have the communication style link for you. And I'm going to put, even though you have all my stuff down there in my Linktree link, it has all my good stuff that I have. I'm going to put my email in there and website. Please, if you have a question about anything I discussed today, please reach out to me. I promise I will email you back. So my email is Connie@changingthesalesgame.com. And again, all of that will be in the show notes. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, solo version, but I hope you found value. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together. No matter where you are on your journey of change, I truly hope that myself and my guests in the other episode, we give you some meat, some ideas, some strategies to take and apply. And I say this at the end, I'm going to say it again today. Information's a beautiful thing. If you do nothing with it, guys, it's just information. As soon as you take an idea, one of the tips I gave you today, pause, breathe, right? Make a choice, think about it, write it down, whatever works for you, do it. Make that decision to make your choice with thought. And again, give yourself grace every day because we really all are on a journey of change and challenge. I think they go hand in hand. You've been listening to Enlightenment of Change with me, your host, Connie Whitman, on webtalkradio.com. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do hope you found value. Email me with any questions or any feedback. I love to hear from you guys. And I truly am honored. I think having you on this journey of change with me keeps me going, peeps. But I hope you enjoy it. And I love having you. And I will see you next week. I love you all, everybody. Have a great week. Be inspired. Make a choice. Set those boundaries. And I promise magic happens on the back end. I love you. See you next week.